I believe we should be joined by Alicia Ross. Alicia, hi, if you're there, I apologize if I messed up your name. If you want to go ahead and introduce yourself to the committee, let us know if you're representing an organization, what bill you're testifying on, and you can go ahead with your testimony.
Yes, hi. My name is Alicia Ross, and I am a organizer at the George Wiley Center. And what we do there at the George Wiley Center is about organizing for social and economic justice and also grassroots organizing. And we have this program that we're doing on Mondays with the food distro, which is we have the people from the food moms that come and we get all these different fruits and vegetables and nutritious stuff for people to eat in the community. They come in on Mondays and we give them groceries with all sorts of nutrition vegetables like lettuce, tomatoes, cubes, carrots and everything. And then also on Mondays, I go down to Narragansett and pick up fish and we distribute that. I feel like this program helps not only with this because of the pandemic, but we've been doing this for quite some time. I think that when the people come inside the George Wiley Center to get the food, they're like very happy and satisfied with the vegetables and things that we distribute to them. I think that this is a good program because, as you know, people, what's going on now in this world, a lot of people are not able to be able to have food in their house that will, that will last for the month. And with us doing this on every Monday, it helps. And I don't know what else you would like me to say.
No, I think that was great. Thank you. I appreciate the information of the program that you're working on. That's really helpful for the committee to understand. And I know some of the programs that have been talked about today. I would definitely encourage folks to also reach out to the bill sponsor to make sure that the way that these programs are set up are able to do what Ken Ayers was talking about, to make sure that we're working from the ground up and making sure that our food system is really meeting the needs of our most vulnerable communities and getting food access across the board. So having that understanding of the grassroots program that you're working with is very helpful to the committee and helpful to help us understand this issue.
Okay, thank you. And also, it helps, it really does. Just seeing all the people come in and seeing all, because a lot of it, at one point, we have also a community garden before the food moms got involved, and they was bringing food there. We was handing that out. So yeah, it's very helpful, and people are very appreciative of it. And I just pray that we'll be able to do this more, not maybe more than one time a week. But what we're doing right now is helping.
That's great. Thank you so much. I believe we're joined by Jazondra Barros, and I apologize if I messed up your name. If you want to introduce yourself to the committee, let us know what bill you're testifying on, and if you represent any organizations, and you can go ahead with your testimony.
Hi, good evening, Senators. My name is Jazondra Barros. I am here to give testimony on behalf of myself in strong support of Bill 468, the Agriculture Jobs Bureau Act. I'm a current resident of the South Side of Providence. I'm a constituent of District 6, Senator Mack. I was born and raised here in Providence, and I'm blessed to call myself a second-generation land steward right here on the South Side, growing food and herbs in the same space where my grandfather grew food and herbs starting in the late 70s, right up until his passing in 2011. I know how much it's a privilege to be able to say that. But this piece of land here that I'm growing on is and has been surrounded and threatened by the development pressure of the Rhode Island Hospital and many others, which has left this corner of our neighborhood flattened by concrete parking lots and filled with commuter vehicles, without proper tree coverage, polluted by all the toxic industry in the port. I've lived and worked all over the city and the state, and I've seen firsthand all of the environmental, social, and economic disparities between wealthier white neighborhoods and poorer majority communities of color. My work since returning to Rhode Island in 2016 as a gardener, nutrition educator, chef, coordinator for the South Side Community Land Trust, a member of the Race and Environmental Justice Committee of Providence, and as a proponent of Relish Rhody, which is the state of Rhode Island's food strategy, which was developed under the current administration, has led me to two conclusions. One, all of the environmental and economic discrepancies that are so apparent are not an accident, but are by intentional design, a design that has been supported by the Rhode Island legislature, both past and present. Rhode Island has a flourishing food economy, and we are known for our culinary prestige, yet we have continued to see unacceptable levels of food insecurity and hunger at both the municipal and state levels. And this current pandemic we find ourselves in has only highlighted how inadequate our current local food system is in both feeding and providing living and working opportunities to our population. And two, the Rescue Rhode Island Act, of which this bill is one part of, is an important piece of legislation that will leverage the already bustling food sector in Rhode Island to increase equity throughout the state, and will be a lever that will move forward Rhode Island's already existing strategy to create a stronger food system. I'd like to thank Senator DeMario, Senator Coleman, and Senator Valverde for your support on these bills. The fact of the matter is that good, fresh, local food, safe housing, and a thriving wage should be a right and not a luxury for just a small few. As Mr. Dedekian stated earlier, there are animals in this state that are treated better than some of the humans, which I don't for a second doubt is a fact. And that almost goes without saying that it is beyond time to give the power to define and create food systems and living systems that work for all Rhode Islanders and that support our critical environmental needs. And we need to give it back to Rhode Islanders, but particularly to those who have been systematically degraded and excluded. I thank everyone for your time, and I hope you really consider these bills as you move forward.
Thank you, and thank you for all of your expertise and bringing that to the table. It sounds like there's a lot of knowledge around the food systems, and so bringing that to the committee is extremely helpful as we vet these issues. So thank you very much for your time and your perspective. I believe we're now joined by Rachel Baker. Rachel, if you would like to introduce yourself to the committee, let us know if you're representing any organization and what bill you're testifying on, and you can go ahead with your testimony.
Gotcha. Thanks so much. Can you all hear me okay?
Yes, you're coming through quite clear.
All right, perfect. Thank you. My name is Rachel Baker. I'm testifying in support of the 468 bill, the agriculture bill, and I'm testifying as a lifelong Rhode Islander. And I am making it clear to, don't cut me off. And I know what it's like to not have access to healthy food. I remember when my mom was running so fast on her feet, working all the time, and she would come home with McDonald's because that's the only thing that she had, was able to afford and able to pick up. And I know the health issues that caused on me and my siblings. My sister has diabetes, and she also has all these other conditions that she was born with. So I was terrified when I heard that there was a virus called COVID that killed people with diabetes and her pre-existing conditions. And it's happening still, mothers who are working so hard and don't have enough money, don't have enough access to healthy food to put on the table for the kids, so they grow up with health conditions that put them at huge risk for diseases like COVID and other things that happen that put us in hospitals. And y'all have the audacity to hold this bill for further study before you even hear our voices. I think you're afraid of the emotions and the radical acts that you'll have to make if you actually pass this bill. So I'm telling you to stand up and grow some courage, or get it from all of us who are calling, because if you don't, then you're not going to have your seat anymore. Okay? Any questions?
Thank you, Rachel. I appreciate your testimony. I know how difficult it is to share a personal story like that with the committee, so thank you for your time.
Chair?
Go ahead, Senator Archibald.
Yeah, here's some more of this mindless kind of threatening stuff. We're going to keep seeing that. It's some new phenomenon. I don't remember in past years having people call up on bills that likely all of us support in spirit, probably will support, and have these baseless threats that just at the end of each person's testimony, they have to throw it in that if you don't vote for it, we're cowards, we'll run against you. And, you know, I mean, I'm going to sit back, but it's just hard to listen to because it doesn't apply to any of us. It makes no sense. It's unnecessary. It's foolish. And it shouldn't be part of someone's testimony. You make a very good point in your testimony. We're all listening. It sounds great. I'm with you. And then if you don't vote for it, holding it for further study, you're a coward. And it's got no place here. And I put that out to future callers. It has no place. You don't need to say that. Just make your point. We're all listening. We don't have to be told we're cowards if a bill's held for further study. It's silly. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Archibald. We're just waiting to get the next caller on the line. I believe we're joined by Kaelin Polly. And Kaelin, if you're on, I think I hear the sound in the background. There is a slight delay, so you are live with the committee. If you want to go ahead and introduce yourself and let us know if you represent any organizations and also what bill you're testifying on, and you can go ahead with your testimony.
Okay, thank you. Yep, my name is Kaelin Polly. I'm 21 years old. I'm a community organizer in Rhode Island, and I'd like to share with you why I strongly support Bill 468. I actually grew up in Newport in low-income housing and learned firsthand about the disparity that exists between the rich and the poor. My parents were very young, and we depended on food banks and SNAP, but I didn't really understand these experiences until I got older and started to need these services myself. As I got older, I also learned that we could solve a lot of food access problems by electing reps who would fight for poor and working class people like me. In 2017, I actually tried that out by voting for my first time ever for you, Senator Oyer. I gave you my support then, so I'm asking for your support now. And in 2020, I spent my entire summer fighting to elect progressive champions to this state house. In 2022, I'm going to be doing the same in the districts of the elected officials who vote against these food programs that could really help so many of their constituents. So I ask, please fight for us or make some room for someone else to. Thank you.
Thank you, Kaelin. Appreciate your testimony. And I believe that we have our next caller who will be joining us. And I believe that should be Peter Trafton. Peter, you should be on with the committee, and I believe if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself to the committee, let us know if you work for any organization and also what bill you're supporting, and you can go ahead with your testimony.
Thank you, Chair Oyer. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you just fine. Go ahead.
Thank you. First, let me thank you for your work on Act on Climate. Really, we all appreciate that. I'm Peter Trafton from Providence, testifying as a concerned private citizen to support S468. We live in the world's wealthiest country. It's totally reprehensible that millions of Americans go to sleep hungry. A quarter of Rhode Island households lack adequate food. Pre-pandemic, 15% of Rhode Islanders, that's way enough, suffered low or very low food security. COVID made it dramatically worse, especially for folks who are members of disadvantaged minorities. The government, national and state, have not closed the gap satisfactorily. The system is broken, and we, the people of Rhode Island, must fix it. Our family moved here in 1984. Within a few years, my wife discovered South Side Community Land Trust, which Margaret DeVos has already discussed some tonight, but I just want to continue to talk about it a little bit. Fran, my wife, volunteered some, learned about their problems, supporting community programs, supporting community gardens, children's education about gardening and healthy nutrition, farmer training, farmland access. Southside Spring Plant Sale continues to fill our family gardens. Their farmers now run successful businesses. They've established growers' collaboratives and farmers' markets. The surrounding communities have flourished. We've loved watching Southside grow and are privileged to help them when we can. If you want to see what S468 is about, you must visit SCLT. For 40 years, they've been building sustainable, fair local food system. It works. They have 21 community gardens in Providence, Pawtucket, and Central Falls. They help manage more. They're truly fulfilling their goal to make fresh, nutritious food abundant and affordable so that everyone in our state, regardless of income, can eat well and live well. S468 will scale up Southside's concepts and help our state toward nutritional self-sufficiency. It will help build meaningful jobs and businesses, improve our nutrition, decrease obesity, increase resilience, decrease greenhouse gas emissions from factory farms and food brought in from away. It will replace fast food chains with neighborhood farmers markets. Let's do it. And let us support our legislature to help create this new system and promptly replace those who oppose it. Thank you very much for listening to my testimony.
Thank you. Appreciate your testimony tonight. And I believe we're joined by Greta Welch. Greta, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself to the committee, let us know what bill you're testifying on, and if you work for an organization, you can go ahead with your testimony.
Hi, thank you so much, Chairwoman. My name is Greta Welch, and I am testifying on behalf of myself in support of Senate Bill 468. And so I firstly wanted to thank all of you senators for the work you do for Rhode Island, and I wanted to implore you all to support Senate Bill 468. I come from 5 generations of farmers. My uncle operates our small family farm, but over the past decade, a majority of our neighbors have been forced to leave because industrialized monoculture is becoming the norm. And this just really is not right and sits very wrongly with me because industrialized monoculture has just uprooted livelihoods and it's killing the environment with unsustainable agricultural practices and chemicals. And we have lost a vibrant community of passionate farmers and our neighbors. And so I'm just hoping that you support Bill 468 because the Agricultural Jobs Bureau Act can foster an environment of sustainability, creativity, and inclusivity in the city. Providence is a food desert, and we need fresh, local, and affordable produce. Establishing community land trusts for urban gardens is essential to feeding the people who are also your constituents. And my current work right now is to connect low-income residents with fresh produce from local farms at subsidized costs. And I have seen the power of localized food systems, whether it be fostering relationships with local farmers, creating tight-knit communities, and definitely the most important is providing good, healthy food for the people who need it. And I've become very active over the past year in Rhode Island politics, whether that be knocking on doors last fall to help elect Senator Cynthia Mendes, making hundreds of phone calls in support of this legislation. I have become very, very invested in politics here. So I'm just hoping that you support this bill, because if you fail to support these bills, I will continue to fight for Rhode Island, because Rhode Island really needs passionate leaders to fight for working people. And so I'm really asking you to step up and advocate for Rhode Island's future by supporting Bill 468. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much for your time, Greta. This is Vice Chairwoman Alana DiMario. I'm just trading in for Chairwoman Oyer so that we can just take breaks, but please rest assured that we are all listening to the testimony. But I appreciate your time. Thank you. Hi, I believe we have Adam Coton. Are you with us, Adam?
Yes, I am. Hi, good evening, Chair and members of the committee. My name is Adam Coton. I'm a resident of Pawtucket, and I'm testifying on behalf of myself. I've had the honor of working in the food and ag sector in various capacities for the past 10 years or so, and I'm here in support of SB 468, the Agriculture Jobs Bureau Act. And in addition to addressing our crisis of food insecurity, as others have already very powerfully noted, I believe this is also a bill about the future of Rhode Island's agricultural economy and how we manage our most distinctive resource, our land, in ways that will generate good-paying jobs while addressing various other state goals. The regenerative agriculture program in the bill empowers Rhode Island farmers to play a frontline role in tackling climate change, following a trend that's catching on all across the country. And as was noted at the start of this hearing, farmers and landowners in the state need additional sources of revenue to remain economically viable and to continue to protect our agricultural heritage. All of the farmers that I know and work with want to do the right thing, and they need help doing so because our current food system has stacked the deck against them. They need to be rewarded for their good management practices and the benefits they provide to the environment, the people of Rhode Island, and the broader New England region, and this bill provides a robust mechanism for rewarding them. Additionally, this bill empowers the people of Rhode Island to have a greater stake in and ownership of their food system through the garden agriculture program and other provisions. And as Senator Anderson noted earlier, it's a comprehensive bill and it's long because it has to be in order to tackle the scope of the problems that we face while taking advantage of the opportunities ahead. I do also just want to take a quick second to urge your support for Senate Bill 470 as well, the Forest Conservation Act, for the reasons discussed by Chief Ayers, Mr. Millar, and others earlier. And I thank you for the opportunity to testify today and urge your vote on these two important bills.
So I believe we have Melody O'Brien. Melody, are you with us?
Yes, I am.
Hi, Melody, you're on with the committee. If you could just please state your name and let us know if you're representing any particular organization, and also just let us know which bill you're going to testify on.
Great, thank you. My name is Melody O'Brien. I am testifying in support of Bill 468. I am not only testifying for myself, but also as a co-founder of Missions of Love in Newport. I support this bill because fresh food is a human right. I am sick of watching my clients who deal with food insecurity be offered unhealthy, expired food when they go to the local food pantries. To be able to have locally grown fresh food available would be a life changer for so many individuals and families that live in Rhode Island. I have personally taken clients to food pantries within my city where they have been offered expired food and rotten, unedible fruits and vegetables. I have clients who are diabetic and clients who eat a vegetarian diet due to religious or health reasons, who are not able to use the food pantries because it's either canned high-sodium food or anything that is considered fresh is way beyond its shelf life. We need to strive for something better than what we have, because what we have now is not working for many of the marginalized people who live in the state. To have fresh, locally grown food would help with many of the issues that my clients, my neighbors, my family, and my loved ones face. As a lifelong resident of Aquinic Island, who came from a family of immigrant farmers, this bill is extremely important to me. I have seen our farmland be rezoned and our food be outsourced, when so many people could not only benefit from the fresh food provided, but also the employment opportunities. This bill needs to be passed. As Madam Chair knows, I stand by my work. She knows me personally and is aware that not only am I willing to drive 35 hours over land and water rights, I am willing to make sure I help outvote anyone who decides not to support this bill. It's time all of you understand that your constituents are no longer going to stay quiet. We will do everything within our power to have you voted out in the next election. We will replace you with progressives that will be in this fight with us for the long haul. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much for your time, Melody, and thank you for raising the important issue of the availability of fresh foods to the populations that you serve as well. And I know for a lot of the families that I work with in my other job, I know that there are also issues with children and families who have certain dietary and allergy needs, and that a lot of times resources are limited for that as well. So thank you for bringing up those issues. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
So next, I think we have Andrew Poyant. Andrew, are you with us?
Yep, I'm here.
Hi, Andrew. If you can just let us know if you're testifying on behalf of any particular organization and also which bill you're testifying on, that would be great. Thank you.
Okay, I'm testifying as myself. I'm testifying in favor of Bill 468. Hi, my name is Andrew Poyant. I'm a Providence resident. I'm calling in support of Bill 468. I have a master's in soil science. I've worked on a local organic farm in the past, and I've been a part of 2 different community gardens here in Providence. Agriculture can either be practiced in a way that improves environmental and human health or damages environmental and human health. Agriculture is currently practiced in the U.S. accounts for approximately 10.5% of our greenhouse gases. Regenerative agricultural practices store carbon in our soil while increasing fertility and improve water quality by decreasing chemical fertilizers. This bill would reconnects people to the land and increases access to farming and gardening. As a father, I have been able to garden with my kids and show them the importance of growing food, which has increased their interest in eating fresh fruits and vegetables, and also being more aware of what goes into making our food. And this is important to me as a father. This bill also was strategically written to increase local agriculture in a way that protects the environmental and human health. It also increases local jobs and decreases food insecurity. I strongly urge you to move Bill 468 to a full Senate vote. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your testimony, Andrew. Next, I think we're on with Linda Ujafusa. Linda, are you with us?
Yes.
Hi, Linda. You're on with the
Hi.
committee. If you just want to let us know if you're testifying on behalf of anybody and which bill you're testifying on, and you can go right ahead.
Thank you, Senators, for hearing my testimony. My name is Linda Ujifuza. I am speaking on behalf of myself in support of S468. As noted earlier, 1 in 4 households in Rhode Island lacks adequate food, with BIPOC communities most severely affected. That is a horrifying fact in the richest country in the world and reflects a serious maldistribution of resources that this bill attempts to remedy. I know, as a member of the Portsmouth Town Council, that food insecurity has been greatly exacerbated by COVID-19, and many of our local citizens have visited our emergency food bank. As the former board chair of the Aquidneck Land Trust, I am also aware of the following. Rhode Island produces less than 2% of the food we consume in the state. We cannot forever fly in inexpensive food from California and Florida and South America. Climate change-caused fires, floods, and pandemics very much threaten this model. Aquidneck Island has excellent agricultural soil and amazing farms and farmers who have contributed to their communities for generations. When selling out to developers was a far easier path forward. But local farming must be supported more. As the granddaughter of farmers who raise strawberries and soybeans, I'm well aware of how farming is tremendously hard work. We see the same problems, food insecurity and an inadequate local food production system. We may favor different solution priorities, and we should certainly discuss and avoid negative unintended consequences. We should also, however, not constrain ourselves to considering only one limited solution at a time nor only take incremental steps expanding the flawed status quo in this time of crisis and looming greater crises. I urge you to support S468 and ask you not use the procedure of holding bills for further study to effectively dismiss or change this bill beyond recognition with amendments. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda, for your testimony. Next, I believe we have Arden Reynolds. Arden, are you with us?
Yes, hi.
Hi, Arden. You're on with the committee. If you could just introduce yourself and let us know if you're speaking on behalf of any organization and also which bill you're going to testify on, and you can go right ahead with your testimony.
Okay, great. Thank you. Hi, my name is Arden Reynolds, and I'm testifying on behalf of myself for Bill S468, which is the Food Bill of the Rescue Rhode Island Act. So I work at a Providence public school, and I witnessed in my classroom the effects of the massive food insecurity that we have here in Rhode Island. I specifically remember one day in the classroom when my lesson was interrupted by a squabble that had broken out in the back of the room near the fridge. I approached the students who had shuffled their chairs closer and closer to the fridge and asked what was up. Jeremy was taking more milk, but he already had milk, and so if he has another, there's not enough for everyone else, explained one girl. Jeremy defended himself with an, I did, but I'm still really hungry. I didn't have breakfast at home. The girl, Johara, explained that she didn't have much to eat at home either, and that she wanted the milk to have for her afternoon snack so she could focus on her homework. I felt completely at a loss. I had to make a decision to choose between these two children, to tell one of them that, unfortunately, they would have to go hungry for the afternoon. I felt like a monster. It is unconscionable that a scenario like this would take place in our country, in our state. Unconscionable because this is not a one-off event. More than 25% of Rhode Islanders are food insecure, a number that is only getting higher 1 year into the pandemic. There is no excuse for this. We, as a state, have the money to provide for one of the most basic human necessities, food. And with this legislation, we have a blueprint and an opportunity to make sure that every single Rhode Islander has the food that they need, food that is grown in a sustainable way and distributed in an equitable way. Beyond an educator, I am an organizer and an activist. I organize because I cannot look my students in the eyes and tell them that I care about them, actually care about them, if I am not doing everything possible to make sure that they are taken care of, inside and outside of the classroom. And that means making sure that they don't have to fight over milk, that they are nourished enough that they can concentrate in the classroom. I have spent countless hours working on garnering support for this legislation, and countless hours organizing to fight for a more just and equitable world in general. And if you, legislators, cannot protect my students, cannot protect all students, all people in Rhode Island, then you have failed your job. And if that is the case, then I will turn my organizing energy towards finding someone to remove you from power. If you do not do your part as a representative of the people of Rhode Island, I will look my students in the eyes and tell them, promise them, that I will do everything in my power to find someone who will.
Thank you, Arden, for all of your work on behalf of your students and for your advocacy. I really appreciate your testimony. Next, I believe we have Laura Brown Lavoy. Laura, are you with us?
I am.
Hi, Laura. If you could please just let us know if you're testifying on behalf of any organization and which bill you plan to testify on, and you can go right ahead with your testimony.
Okay. I'm just testifying as myself, Laura Brown Lavoy, and I'm here to talk in favor of the bill S468. And I live here in 02909, and I've been a farmer in Rhode Island since I was 20, which is like 13 years. And I'm just asking for you to support this legislation. As someone who's been farming here for my whole adult life, I love the work, and I've found it really difficult to make a living. The land is so expensive, and there are just a lot of, and the economy doesn't compensate farmers well enough to really make a living or get by. And I've found that the only way that I've been able to get access to land to grow food is because I'm white and have a college education and can kind of network with people who are wealthier and own land. And I know so many people who are ready to grow food in this state who, because they can't afford to buy land are really limited in their opportunities to participate in the food system. And my garden has become a space that people can come for herbs and vegetables and fruit. And I just know that if there's more support for agriculture in our state and a richer economy, and particularly for farmers to support themselves and have access to land, that there will be a proliferation of people growing food for their neighbors and herbs and medicine, and it will result in healthier neighborhoods. So I'm really grateful for the opportunity to speak on behalf of this legislation, and I hope it goes through because there's so many of us ready to grow food for each other. And thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, Laura, and thank you specifically for bringing up the issue of the kind of barriers to people getting started. I think that's a really important point to make, and I appreciate it, and keep up the good work. So next, I believe we have Angel Lopez. Angel, are you with us?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you just fine. Can you please let us know if you're testifying on behalf of any particular organization and also which bill you'd like to testify on, and then you can go right ahead.
Will do. Good evening. I'm Angel Lopez, representing my own views as an unofficial advocate of Silver Lake and Providence. I'm speaking in support of Senate Bill 468, the Agriculture Jobs Bureau Act. Imagine a world where what we eat and drink is respected even before it gets harvested. The food will not get contaminated with unnatural chemicals before it reaches the storefront or our plates. Simply imagining this possibility of respecting our food and drink before and within the pipeline to our homes makes regenerative agriculture and economies attainable. S468 begins and ends with the foundations for food justice, as ecosystem restoration, or simply as land justice. The provisions described in the bill will make the state more versatile than we are today. The supermarkets were not as well stocked a year ago due to COVID, and the dependency on centralized marketplaces had me desiring an easily accessible community garden where I could pick natural plants to reduce my anxiety, remedy a cold, or cleanse my organs, instead of depending on Vitamin World or Amazon. This bill will not only make that community garden a welcoming possibility, but also create jobs and spaces for that purpose in my community. Every member of this committee and the General Assembly has the opportunity this year to open the doors and windows for what has been seeping through and widening the cracks of this system for decades. The COVID pandemic made it clear that a shift is necessary. This bill will help repair the undeniable harms of generational genocide done to land, water, and indigenous communities all across this region. And in return, it will increase the versatility of our communities and provide us all with clean food and water. Please support the enactment of Senate Bill 468. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your testimony, Angel.
Any questions?
I don't see any. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Have a good night.
You too.
I believe next we have George Evans Marley. George, are you there? Oh, maybe not.
Hello?
George, can you hear me? Okay, let's try that again. George, are you with us?
I am with you. Yes, I am.
All right, thanks so much for hanging in there. So if you could just let us know if you're testifying on behalf of any particular organization and what bill you want to testify on, and then you can go right ahead with your testimony.
Sure, absolutely. Before I do that, Chairwoman, may I please address the Vice Chairperson directly, please?
Yes, this is Senator Mario you're speaking to.
Excellent. And may I address Senator Archambault directly?
I'm sorry, if you could go ahead with your testimony on the bill. I think I'd like to follow the kind of guidelines that Chairwoman Oyer set out of really just trying to focus on debating the merits of the legislation in front of us. So if you can go right ahead with your...
I just want to make sure that I'm not cutting off. I want to make sure I'm given my right to 3 minutes. And if I am not, if the Vice Chairperson Archambault is not interested in being addressed.
Madam Chair, point of order, which means he needs to stop. Point of order, he needs to stop.
All right, thank you.
We are not here to take personal questions.
Okay.
Madam Chair, he needs to stop.
I'm sorry, hold on. I'm sorry, Mr. Marley.
I would just like to address.
Mr. Marley, Senator Archambault has called a point of order, and I'm going to let him speak.
Madam Chair, we are not here to take personal questions. That's the procedure of the Senate. So no one can call in and focus personal attacks. He may not have liked the fact that with prior people who testified and they got off on a tangent about they're going to come after us in campaigns and attack us and all, that I've spoken up and said that's inappropriate. He may not like that, but his comments and any other people who testify shouldn't be directed at me or any of us individually. We're here tonight to discuss the merits of the legislation that's before us. I'll listen till the cows come home regarding the merits of the legislation. But none of us will take personal questions. It's inappropriate. It's not proper procedure. The questions need to go through the chair, and they need to be directed to the merits of the legislation. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Senator Archambault. Mr. Marley, would you like to go ahead with testimony on the merits of the bill?
Yes, thank you, Chairperson. Yes, thank you, Senator Archambault. And going forward, please use my correct pronouns. Going forward, I just want to say a few things. I suffer from extreme anxiety. What we're doing here today is preventative care. I am in support of this bill. Calamari is life. Prevention is care. Rescue is the result of carelessness. Good evening.
I believe next we have Tyler Skoglund. Tyler, are you there?
Yes, I am here.
Hi, Tyler. If you could just let us know what organization you're testifying on behalf of, if any, what legislation you'd like to testify on, and then you can go right ahead with the committee.
Yeah, I am testifying on behalf of myself in support of legislation 468. Specifically, I was here, well, not here.
Tyler, are you still there? Oh. I believe next we have Lisa Petri. Lisa, are you with us?
Yes. My name is Lisa Petri. And I'm a member of the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of South County. I'm speaking in support of S468. I'd like to thank Senator Anderson for sponsoring the bill and Senators DeMario, Coleman, and Valverde for co-sponsoring. I also want to quickly state my support for all of the other bills being considered, if that's okay. Do I need to list them?
No, that's fine. Thank you.
Okay, great. And thank you all for those bills. I don't enjoy giving public testimony, but it is a joy to have a bill like this to testify for. It's a joy because I love gardening, and I'm excited that this bill will give many more people, including poor people in urban areas who live with chronic stress, a chance to experience the satisfaction, emotional healing, and deep connection with the web of life that can come from gardening. It's a joy because people who now live in food deserts will have access to fresh, whole foods at affordable prices. Most of all, it's a joy because it's a critical step towards safeguarding our children's future. I'm a mother of 2 nearly grown sons, and like any parent, I've tried to do all that I can to help my kids have a bright future. But as the climate crisis worsens, I've become increasingly concerned about the world my sons will inhabit. We're in a climate emergency, as you all know. We're already seeing climate chaos in the U.S. and around the world, but if we don't slash our emissions now, it will get immeasurably worse, impacting all aspects of our lives. The Pentagon knows this. In March of 2020, they called climate change a catastrophic threat to our national security. Okay, back to the joy. This bill and its 2 companion bills, the Housing and Green Justice Zones bills, are the first pieces of legislation I've seen that begin to adequately address the climate crisis by addressing all aspects, and not only cutting emissions, but creating a more just society where everyone can thrive. This bill invests in regenerative agriculture and habitat restoration, and that will address these crises in a way that just cutting emissions can't. So regenerative methods create healthy soil and healthy plants, which together can actually pull some of the carbon out of the atmosphere. The other thing that pulls carbon from the atmosphere is restoring ecosystems. And that's wonderful news because some scientists believe that we've already put enough carbon into the atmosphere to trigger runaway catastrophic climate change if we can't start pulling some of it out soon. We all know that forests pull carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere, and that's super important. But natural grasslands or even well-managed grazing land can also soak up carbon, and so can healthy wetlands. And it's not a trivial effect. Worldwide, soils already hold at least 3 times the amount of carbon that's currently in the atmosphere. And many of these soils are seriously degraded and can hold significantly more if we give them the care that they deserve. This, together with slashing our emissions to 0 in the next decade or 2, can give us a fighting chance of averting catastrophic climate change. Nothing less will do. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. I believe we should have Shauna Wells with us. And Shauna, if you want to introduce yourself to the committee, let us know if you are testifying on behalf of any group and what bill you're testifying on behalf of, and you can go ahead with your testimony.
Thank you very much. Hi, my name is Shauna Wells. I'm a resident of West Warwick, and I'm testifying tonight in support of Bill 468, which is one of 3 bills in the Rescue Rhode Island Act. I want to thank Senators Anderson, DeMario, and Coleman for your sponsorship of this bill. For 20 years, I've been a social worker in Rhode Island. Increasingly, I feel like I'm trying to cure cancer by putting a Band-Aid on it. No matter what I do, the root causes of the suffering I witness day after day never go away. Those causes are poverty and racism. The poorest communities in Rhode Island are food deserts, areas where it's difficult to buy affordable or good quality fresh food. The lack of healthy food contributes to health disparities with more negative health outcomes for Black, Indigenous people of color. This isn't news. It's been like this for decades, and the pandemic's only made it worse with 1 in 4 Rhode Island households now food insecure. Keeping people of color impoverished has been and continues to be a deliberate political choice, but the beauty of the Rescue Rhode Island Act is that the 3 bills together provide a comprehensive roadmap for dismantling poverty, improving the social and health disparities caused by systemic racism, while creating good jobs, using sustainable environmental practices, and reducing our carbon footprint. If passed, Bill 468 will not only provide enhanced access to healthy food, but will reintroduce green spaces into urban areas of our state and provide residents with greater self-sufficiency and autonomy. It would allow backyard and community gardens to flourish, for us to be more reliant on locally grown food sources where the workers aren't financially exploited and the vegetables aren't trucked in from the other side of the continent. The time to do this is now. After 20 years of Band-Aids in Rhode Island, it's time for an innovative plan to reduce poverty and environmental degradation here once and for all. And I know this bill is already held for further study, but the passion of the testimony and our need to hold our elected officials accountable is because there are Rhode Islanders who are actively suffering in our state right now. And we can't afford for this to languish and die in committee. We're past Band-Aids and business as usual. Nothing but full equity and justice will solve our problems now. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. We should have Joseph Allegro with us, and if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself to the committee, let us know if you're with any organization or group, and also what bill you're testifying on, and you can go ahead with your testimony.
Okay, thank you. Hi, my name is Joseph Allegro, and I am testifying on behalf of myself in support of Senate Bill 468. I support this bill because I believe that we need a new food system. I believe that food systems should be local. I believe that food systems should be sustainable. I believe it should take into account fair labor standards, and I believe that everyone has a fundamental right to enjoyable and nutritious food regardless of income bracket. So we've long had rampant food insecurity in Rhode Island. Many of the people who've spoken before me have talked about this, and the COVID-19 pandemic has made the problem even worse. I've been supporting the Rhode Island Food Bank regularly throughout the pandemic, and I've just watched their needs grow and grow. And it's preposterous, I think, that more hasn't been done on the state level to remedy this. Rhode Islanders are going hungry right now. The time to act on this problem is now, and the way to act is by supporting this bill. So since 2019, I've been really politically active. I've knocked on hundreds of doors. I've made thousands of phone calls in support of candidates that will stand up for people's needs. And I'm going to keep doing this because I've seen the difference that it can make. And I'd like to address Senator Coyne directly. Your district is only a short drive from my house. And if you don't support this bill, I will have no choice but to drive over there weekly to canvass for your opponent in the next election. To the entire Committee on Environment and Agriculture, we all have a fundamental right to nutritious food, regardless of our income bracket, and I demand that you support this bill. Work for Rhode Islanders or step aside for someone else who will. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony.
I will be in a moment.
I believe that we have Kaelin Merrick, and I apologize if I got your name wrong. If you want to introduce yourself to the committee, let us know if you're testifying on behalf of any organization and what bill you're testifying on, and you can go ahead with your testimony.
Great. Thank you, members of the committee, for being here, and thank you to those who have brought this legislation to life. My name is Kaelin Merrick. I'm a 15-year-old high school student from Cranston, and I'm testifying on behalf of myself in support of Bill S468. Today, you have heard and will continue to hear from extremely articulate individuals explaining the specific benefits of the Agriculture Jobs Bureau Act. These individuals have and will do a much better job at this than I ever could. So I'm here instead to ask a rather simple question. Why not? Why not combat the food insecurity crisis? Why not support low and middle income Rhode Islanders? Why not create sustainable infrastructure? And why not build a better, stronger, more equal state? Now, before responding to these questions, I ask you to check your biases and privileges, which we all have, myself included, and then choose your answer wisely. Thank you for your time, and I appreciate you listening to my testimony tonight.
Thank you for your testimony. And I believe we should have Ian Lawson with us. Ian, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself for the committee, let us know if you're testifying on behalf of any organization and what bill you're speaking on, and you can go ahead with your testimony.
Thank you very much. Good evening. My name is Ian Lawson. I'm testifying on behalf of myself. I'm a resident of Warren, and I'm here to express my strong support for Bill S-468, the Agricultural Bureau Act. This bill is at its core an investment in the backbone of the state, and it comes at a time when that investment is critically needed. This bill makes meaningful strides to invest in local food production and availability, livable employment for farmers and low-income residents, regenerative practices that improve health across the state while sequestering carbon in the soil for free, and prudent land management to protect our ecosystems, shorelines, and communities from degradation and flooding. Time is short, so I'll focus mostly on food security. According to the Rhode Island Community Food Bank, from data gathered during the pandemic, over 25% of Rhode Islanders are food insecure, meaning they are often unsure where their next meal will come from. Before the pandemic, the rate was still up at around half that amount. Think about that. You're probably hearing from 20 or 30 people tonight alone who frequently have to wonder whether or not they're going to be able to afford food. And I urge you to keep that in mind as you reflect on all of these passionate testimonies that you've been hearing. I hope that makes it clear how urgently we need to start building up food production infrastructure in the state. And the popular will to make this happen is already here. Numbers of small farms have been increasing over the last decade. People want to do this work, but Rhode Island has some of the highest agricultural land costs in the country. Many small farmers are forced to lease the land they grow on, which discourages efforts for long-term land improvement, growing multi-year crops like fruit trees, and many of the benefits that naturally come from having ownership over the land that you work. And it's not like any of this is a radical concept. All of these things have already been recognized by official state strategy documents in the last 5 years. And while some efforts have been made to improve the situation, we're just not there yet. And it's going to take bold steps like this bill to follow through and to actually have the impact we need. As for the other investments, these bills simply and effectively prioritize low-income residents, meaning this money goes where it will have the greatest impact. And to just quickly talk about climate change, which is primed to devastate the coastlines which we love and depend on so much here in Rhode Island, these bills not only incentivize practices which will counteract greenhouse gas emissions, helping us meet our state emissions obligations, they also provide a mechanism to directly protect our coastlines from degradation, erosion, and flooding, something we know will be necessary throughout the remainder of the century. This is fundamental stuff. Invest in the necessities, prepare for the future, take care of and responsibility for the lifelines of the state. I urge the members of this committee to support Bill S-468 and help set Rhode Island on a path to a livable future, because we are done electing senators who will not. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. I believe we're joined by Miko Lenhart, and I apologize for getting your name wrong. If you want to introduce yourself to the committee and go ahead and let us know if you are working with any organization as well as what bill you're testifying on. And you can go ahead with your testimony.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Hello, my name is Miko. I'm a sophomore at Cranston High School East. I'm testifying in support of 468. I'm supporting this bill because I think it makes sense. A quarter of Rhode Islanders struggle to afford food. I think this bill would go a tremendous way in reducing that number. Part of the reason that I'm so convinced that it would be so effective is that I've been looking for jobs where I could work on a farm this summer, and every single place I've looked at that does community-supported agriculture is not supporting any more applications because these programs are in such high demand of people wanting to get and grow vegetables and fruits. I think that in the places these programs exist, they're very successful, and right now we just don't have enough places that are offering them. I think this is a way that you could solve a problem like hunger at its root. You could have fewer people relying on food banks. This kind of bill makes food available. You're supplying the resources. It's not like you're handing anything out because these people are growing food that's going to be benefiting the entire state. I just think this is a really amazing piece of legislation also because of its work in reducing pesticides and protecting the land in a way that benefits our environment. I think of it as a shortcut. If we farm local food without pesticides now, we don't have to work backwards and try to salvage our water later. Same thing with conserving trees. This is just like preventing climate change before it gets worse. I think this bill would do so much to benefit our people and the environment, not to mention that it would make Rhode Island like the coolest state, which is really the least of the reasons that I support this bill, but it's also a legitimate one. We could be the New England state that gets famous for growing all its own food and being really amazing at conserving the environment. In the long run, $75 million is not that much on the grand scheme of things, and I think that this piece of legislation could help so many people and really care for and honor our earth. Thank you for your time.
And thank you for your testimony. We're just waiting to get the next witness, so if the committee could just hang on. I think we should have No on the phone with us. No, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself to the committee and let us know what bill you're testifying on, and if you're with any organization, you can go ahead with your testimony.
Hello, my name is Noe Rishemeyer Bailey. I'm 18 years old, and I'm here to testify in support of Bill 468 on behalf of myself. Firstly, I want to say that senators, reading a bill and understanding it in full before a committee hearing is your job, and it's inappropriate to make comments about its faults without fully understanding it. I've read this bill. I'm supporting it because it would get every Rhode Islander fresh and local food that they could actually afford from small business owners who would make livable wages. I'm supporting this bill because it is smart, effective legislation that will allow Rhode Islanders to go to bed with nutritious food in their stomachs. I'm supporting this bill because implementing democratically controlled community land trusts is fantastic, innovative, and crucial policy. When 1/4 of Rhode Island households struggle to afford food, it seems pretty insane to hear that you won't support this legislation. At what point would you deem it more critical that we restructure our food systems? 1/2 of Rhode Islanders food insecure? 3/4? I'm 18 years old and I'm still in high school, and frankly, it's a little tiring to have to put so much pressure on you all just to do your jobs and pass smart policy that will help people. I'm disappointed that you held this bill for future study before even hearing testimony. I don't believe Senator Ruggiero should have sole power to decide whether this bill can be voted on. Senator Oyer, if you do not support this legislation, instead of doing teenage things like hanging out with my friends and watching movies, I'll have to spend 5 hours every week making calls to your constituents, letting them know what they missed out on. I'll have to recruit volunteers and collect donations, but I will do it willingly because having a senator that doesn't represent Rhode Islanders is not something I'll accept. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. I believe now we are joined by Diane Hill. And Diane, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself to the committee, let us know what bill you're testifying on, and also if you're with any organization. You can go ahead with your testimony.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, Chairwoman and committee members. My name is Diane Hill. I'm a resident of North Kingstown, and I'm speaking today for myself in support of S468. I first want to give a shout out to my Senator, Alana DiMario, for co-sponsoring this bill. I'm proud to say that now that I'm semi-retired and have plenty of time and energy, I work to help elect Senator DiMario doing door-to-door canvassing in the summer and fall of 2020. I have long been concerned about the degradation of our environment and now work as a volunteer with Climate Action Rhode Island, as well as working part-time in my career as a clinical social worker. As a healthcare professional, I have always prioritized healthy organic food for me and when raising my son as a single parent. Although buying organic food and produce at the market or at a co-op can be more expensive, I have had the privilege to prioritize this. My son and his wife, who also live in North Kingstown, now try to feed my 2 young grandchildren with organic, fresh, nutritious food. I believe that nutritious food should be available for everyone in our state. Not only does this benefit our individual health, it is vitally important for the health of our planet. Agribusiness, where factory farms routinely deplete the soil, inject synthetic chemicals into our food supply, and contribute to the climate crisis. I am most concerned for the future of my grandchildren, that they not be forced to live as adults with regularly occurring extreme weather events as we see happening already. If we don't act in a bold, comprehensive way to eliminate human-made carbon emissions, climate disruption and catastrophic sea level rise will become irreversible. That's what science tells us. This is not a legacy I want to leave for my grandchildren and future generations. We need bold action in all sectors of our society, including agriculture. Supporting regenerative agriculture instead of profit-driven, extractive agriculture is a step forward, and I want Rhode Island to be a leader. So please support this legislation and vote it out of committee. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. And I believe we should be joined by Katherine Boland. Katherine, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself to the committee, let us know what bill you're testifying on, and you can go ahead and proceed with your testimony.
Okay, thank you. Yes, my name is Katherine Boland. I'm in Newport, Rhode Island, testifying on behalf of myself today in support of Bill S-21468. I've experienced significant issues with food and weight and health in my life, and definitely not having nourishing food, it being all too accessible and all too expensive for where I was in my life, really didn't help things. And, you know, this theme reaches far beyond my personal experience. I can say as a yoga instructor, dancer, overall health enthusiast, from my graduate level training in mental health counseling, I can affirm that having good, healthy food, accessible and affordable, can really have such a tremendous impact. And the inverse, not having it, can be severe detriment to holistic health, or lack thereof. Holistic in the sense of reaching far beyond physical needs. For instance, a hungry child just can't learn to their potential, nowhere near. Hungry parent can't be there like they need to be for their child, and that cycle continues. Hungry worker can't perform at their best for whatever they're doing. I'm truly passionate about this issue, as you might be able to tell, and the idea of all people not having healthy food, accessible and affordable, makes me angry, frankly. In a more positive sense, from the health of our state economy to the subjective well-being of people in the state, I truly do believe nourishing food can make a tremendous difference. With Bill S-21468, I am so confident that Rhode Island can be a leader here for the state and for all constituents in it. I urge the committee to do all that you can to make this bill law. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for your testimony. And we should be joined by Jacob. Jacob, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself to the committee, let us know what bill you're speaking on, if you're with an organization, and you can go ahead and give your testimony.
Hi, my name is Jacob Kramer, and I'm testifying in support of Bill 468 on behalf of myself. I grew up in Providence, and I'm happy to be living here after many years in the Boston area. Over the past year, the pandemic has made it so clear that our current system of food production and distribution is inadequate to our human needs. People are going hungry nearby. And I would say if you've ever gone without food for even one day, you know how awful that feeling is. And yet that's normal for about a quarter of the people who live here in the state of Rhode Island. And as the future becomes more uncertain and the climate more unstable, food production in traditionally productive areas will also become less predictable. And that means that the dominant monoculture industrial agriculture system that we have in this country is especially vulnerable to pests, disease, blight, and damage from storms and other things like floods. You can think of it like the Irish potato famine and the Dust Bowl. And those were disasters that were based partly in the environment and partly in political decisions around short-sighted agricultural practices. And what we need instead of these monocultures is a more broadly distributed and diverse food production system in order to guard against failures. And beyond that, we should be producing healthy, organic foods that everyone can enjoy for free or at low cost. And we can do it while creating rewarding jobs instead of exploitation, and we can regenerate the land rather than deplete it. And I see all those benefits in this bill. Rhode Island has a long tradition of local agriculture, and we should bring that tradition to the future in a way that benefits everyone. So I urge you to pass this bill out of committee and deliver food justice to the state of Rhode Island. I'd also just say that I was shocked by the way that other people testifying have been treated, especially the way people were cut off. And I don't think that speaks well to the political process. And that just to remind you that you are elected to these seats and you are accountable to the people, and we expect you to wield your power in service of justice. And if you refuse to use that power that is vested in you to solve these urgent problems, we will work together and elect representatives who will. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. And I believe we should have Jacob Osborne with us. Jacob, if you want to go ahead, introduce yourself to the committee, let us know what bill you're testifying on, and if you're with any organization, and you can go ahead with your testimony.
Thank you. My name is Jacob Osborne. I'm testifying on behalf of myself in support of the Food Bill 21S-468, one of the three parts of the larger Rescue Rhode Island Act. Firstly, I want to thank the courageous senators who already support this bill. While there is so much to say in support of this innovative legislation, I want to talk briefly about what I see as its racial justice context. I've been thinking about how last year, in the months after George Floyd was murdered, many white Democrats of relative privilege in Rhode Island made commitments to be better allies in the struggle to end systemic racism and achieve racial equity. I include myself in that group, as well as some of the members of this committee. So now here we are, 9 months later, and we have a chance to make good on those commitments. A multiracial coalition of community-based organizations has come together and done the difficult, time-consuming work of crafting their top legislative priorities for a more just, equitable, and environmentally sustainable Rhode Island, where everyone just has their basic needs of clean air, clean water, a roof over their head, and affordable, nutritious food, because those things are not available to everyone in our state right now. If Democrats won't take this opportunity at this historic moment to make good on our commitments to be better allies and champions for racial equity, when will we? A vote for this bill would send a message to BIPOC and frontline communities across the state where upwards of 40% of households are experiencing food insecurity during the pandemic. It would send a message that their Democratic legislators hear them, actually take their basic needs seriously, and are willing to fight for food equity in this state. If you vote that way, I commit to becoming a regular donor to your reelection campaign. On the other hand, a vote against this bill or a vote to hold it so that it sits and dies quietly, it sent the opposite message. It sent the message that everything Democrats said last year after George Floyd's murder was just for show, and that we as a party were lying, that we actually have no real interest in listening to the needs of black and brown communities, that we aren't willing to spend even a tiny fraction of the state budget to begin righting the wrongs of historical inequities in Rhode Island. So if you ultimately vote that way, I will max out donations to your reelection challengers, and I will volunteer every week during the 2022 campaign to make sure this committee is filled with Rhode Islanders who will make good on Democratic promises for racial equity. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. I believe we should be joined by Jade Carlson. Jade, you're on with the committee if you want to introduce yourself and let us know if you work for any organization as well as what bill you're testifying on, and you can go ahead with your testimony.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for the opportunity to testify tonight. My name is Jade Carlson. I'm a Providence resident, Rep. Blazajewski and Senator Goodwin's districts. I'm testifying tonight in support of Senate Bill 468. I'm a middle school teacher of Providence public school students who live largely in South Providence. If we pass SB 468, we can create a food and farm economy that treats people and the planet well and make sure that we can produce food sustainably and justly, that all people have access to and can grow themselves. This is a world I want to live in and a world I want for my students. Senator Coyne, if you do not support this legislation, I will spend hours every week canvassing for your primary challenger. I've called Rhode Island home for 6 years.
We should be joined now by Benjamin Cooley Hall. Benjamin, if you are on with the committee, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself, let us know what organization you're with and what bill you're testifying on, and you can go ahead with your testimony.
Okay. My name is Benjamin Cooley Hall. I'm not here representing any organization, and I'm here to testify about Senate Bill 468, the Agriculture Jobs Bureau Act. Just go ahead. I've been a resident of Rhode Island for the last 19 years. I'm grateful and proud to call Providence and Rhode Island home. I want to begin by thanking all of you for your public service. Senator Miller, I'm going to address my comments particularly to you as your district in Cranston is right next door to me. Rhode Island is poised to be a national leader in many ways, but so far we as a state have not shown the political will to live up to our potential, nor have we shown the political will to fight for the quality of life of all Rhode Islanders. Senate Bill 468, the Agriculture Jobs Bureau Act, is creative, innovative, and practical. It's something I think we can all get behind. Rhode Island is fortunate to have a wealth of local farmers. However, eking out a living through small-scale agriculture is incredibly hard, partly because, one, produce from massive agribusiness in other states is cheaper due to a system of growing that abuses both workers and the environment, and two, Rhode Island doesn't yet have the infrastructure to efficiently and effectively deliver locally grown produce, meats, dairy, etc. to consumers. This bill would fix that and, in the process, ensure that all Rhode Islanders would have access to healthy and delicious food. It would improve our nutrition and our local economy. The real question for me is what on earth is not to like about this bill? It's a win-win-win-win, a win for consumers, a win for farmers, a win for those seeking employment, and a win for our state's economy. Senator Miller, you have an admirable record of supporting legislation aimed at safeguarding Rhode Islanders' health and at responsibly stewarding our natural environment. This bill is a terrific fit to address those priorities in concrete and needed ways. I want you to know that I, along with my neighbors and fellow voters, are counting on you and even expecting you to support this bill, to fight for it, and to fight for us. Though I very much appreciate your commitment to public service, I hope you will agree that there is a severe problem of gridlock in the legislature. If you're not willing or able to challenge that, including by supporting this excellent legislation and other aligned bills, then my only option is to help elect someone else who will. And I commit to doing that. I will identify
for your
and
testimony.
campaign.
Yeah, I'd just like to make a comment or give a question to the person who testified before we continue. You know, I think it's the responsibility of those who've asked people and notified people to testify on this type of legislation, which I do support much of this legislation, to give them a little bit of history of support of many of the senators that are listening to this testimony. Many of us have worked on legislation, almost all of which was initially held for further study. And we've worked with many of the supporting organizations around Restore Rhode Island, Rescue Rhode Island. And I think it's important for them to give people who are going to testify on legislation on behalf of those coalitions a little bit of history upon us. You know, me and many of the committee members, there wouldn't be a Farm Fresh Rhode Island unless many of us supported Farm Fresh Rhode Island. There wouldn't be snack benefits at farmers markets if many of us hadn't supported and encouraged that. There wouldn't be a South Side Community Land Trust without a lot of the support from many of the senators and legislation that enabled farmers markets throughout us. You know, I personally have supported and worked with Henry Shelton, the founder of George Wiley Center, who testified earlier on this, and to not understand the history of myself and many, many other legislators that have been challenged tonight and in other committees is just not appropriate for those who encourage people to testify on behalf of legislation. I just think it's not effective or appropriate to not give them some background on our, you know, historic support for the efforts of legislation very similar to this, and legislation that has historically been held, and that to put in the context of holding a bill that is necessarily, you know, a negative and unproductive thing on behalf of the legislative effort is just inappropriate. And I think it should be the responsibility of those who are part of these coalitions, and some of them I've mentioned, and others I have not, to encourage people to understand the record of many legislators who are sitting through this in other committees.
Thank you, Chairman Miller. I believe we have Nina Wolf-Landau with us. Nina, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself, and if you're with any organizations, and also let us know what bill you're testifying on, and you can go ahead with your testimony.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Nina Wolf-Landau. I'm a Providence resident. I live in Representative Blazajewski's district and Senator Goodwin's district. I'm testifying tonight in support of Senate Bill 468, testifying on behalf of myself. I worked this summer with a group of incredible young women of color in an urban garden in South Providence, and we spent our time tending the garden and harvesting fresh produce. We set up a free farm stand for local residents to enjoy the produce we are growing right there. We were giving out zucchini and kale and peppers and tomatoes, and all this fresh produce would be taken by residents locally within hours because the need was great, and this was amazing fresh food we were growing right next to a school locally. And we really talked a lot about what they wanted to see in their communities and what they wanted to change. And sitting there together, really sweaty, really dirty, from spending our time tending this garden, these young women really described a world in which all people had clean air to breathe and clean water to drink, and had access to fresh food and could grow their own food, and had the chance to really live the lives they want to live, unlimited by access to food being an issue or a clean environment. And I think this bill is a really, really important step in building this world, one where we not only have a thriving food and farm economy here in Rhode Island, and a fish economy, which is all really important, and also one where this food economy treats people well, treats the planet well, and makes sure that we have access for everyone to that food and to grow that food. So I really encourage all of the legislators on the committee tonight to consider this legislation and to really make sure that we can move this legislation forward. There have been lots of really important efforts around our food economy and food access, and I don't say that those efforts are not important. I think this builds on those efforts, and I think we also need more transformative forward efforts around sustainable farming and regenerative agriculture and food access. So I encourage everyone to support this legislation, and I also do agree with other folks who testified that we feel like we're not being heard, and residents feel like we're not being heard, and that's why so many people have come out tonight to say our voices feel like we're not being listened to by our legislators. So thank you for your time, and I really hope that all of you will work on this legislation and not stand in the way of this progress.
Thank you for your testimony. I believe we should have Mika Seeger with us. Mika, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself to the committee, let us know what bill you're testifying on, if you're testifying on behalf of an organization, and you can go ahead with your testimony.
Thank you. My name is Mika Seeger. I am testifying on behalf of myself in support of Bill number 468. This testimony will be short but not sweet. During the pandemic, some of us had the time and inclination to have fun exploring home cooking. We have learned how to make and love sourdough bread, kefir, and other fermented foods, recipes from around the world published in our local newspapers. But for many, the concern is not an exciting new recipe, but to get something on the table for children and family to eat. And there are many who have no table on which to put their food. Many who have, people who have to rely on handouts and fast food. There are not only people who stand on street corners asking for spare change, but also people who skimp on themselves so that their children can eat. People who buy the cheapest food available, regardless of nutritional value, because the ingredients such as vegetables, fresh fruits, and proteins are simply too expensive, and stomachs must be filled. I'm saying that we must take care that everyone can regard good food not as a luxury, but as a basic human right. This is not an insurmountable goal. It begins with nutritional education at grade school level and beyond, with school and community gardens becoming as common as park benches and streetlights, especially in towns and cities where homes may not have yards for gardens and chicken coops. It needs the cooperation of small farms and businesses which have surplus in need of distribution. It needs the cooperation of large farms and businesses to provide non-perishable foodstuffs. Mostly, it needs the realization that it is our moral obligation and imperative to help our neighbors to eat good food every day. The big picture is that hunger is real in this country, though it may not be as easily photographed as in some places in the world. It is not the kind of hunger you experience when you go on a diet to lose a few pounds. It is the stress-filled hunger of food insecurity, of trying to keep your kids healthy and happy on pennies. So if you, the senators, pass this bill, it will be a first step towards helping people help themselves. Food insecurity is a scary place. Let's put the fun back into feeding our families.
Thank you. We appreciate your testimony. And I believe we should now be joined by Sarah. Sarah, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself to the committee, let us know if you're with let me know if you're testifying on behalf of a group and what bill you're testifying on, and you can go ahead with your testimony.
Great. Hi, everyone, and thank you all so much for your time. My name is Sarah Hsu, and I'm a third-year medical student at Brown University and a master's student in population health. I'm here to testify on behalf of myself and medical students for a sustainable future in support of Senate Bill 468, the Agriculture Jobs Bureau Act. I believe that this bill is sorely needed, especially in its provisions to expand smaller forms of community gardening in lower income communities. For me as an aspiring primary care physician, I'm constantly thinking about how to treat depression, anxiety, unhealthy body image. There is no one pill that does this, unfortunately, but research across the globe has shown evidence that gardening and consuming local organic produce does do those things, reduce depression, anxiety, BMIs, while also improving quality of life. And I know these statistics not only from research, but if I may share, also from my own father. As a son of farmers in Taiwan, my father immigrated to the U.S. in his 20s. Struggling with both his English and his health, he remained unemployed for the entirety of my childhood. Unable to find a job, though, my father went to work doing what he knew best, which was growing food in our backyard. And seeing him use homegrown organic produce to feed us and as an outreach tool, he would check in on elderly Taiwanese and Malaysian immigrants, delivering much-needed sustenance and social interaction in combating food insecurity. He showed me the power of regenerative farming, and he was my first example of this sort of community care. And so, for me, this bill has potential impact for enormous, health, environmental, and economic impacts, especially for immigrant families. In Pawtucket, I have met a number of refugee patients who had worked in agriculture prior to immigrating and were interested in growing produce if given access to land in which to grow it. This bill supports a network of community land trusts, which I believe is not only critical for drawing down carbon, but will also provide a place for community members to attain fair wages and provide our communities with healthy food. As a medical student, I truly believe that this bill is a form of health policy that centers community health and equity, and I would encourage you all to support it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sarah. And I know you've testified in front of our committee before. I appreciate the perspective of tying all of these issues to health. And I don't want to speak for Chair Miller, but I know that this is something that he also looks to in his committee as well. So thank you very much for your testimony.
Thank you.
I believe we are joined now by Nicole Depaolo. And
yes, hello, me.
Hello. You're on with the committee. If you want to go ahead and introduce yourself, let us know if you're with an organization, what bill you're testifying on, and you can go ahead with your testimony.
Thank you so much. My name is Nicole Depaolo, and I am testifying for myself. Thank you, Chair and members of the committee. With 1 in 4 people in Rhode Island that are food insecure, there are tens of thousands more that are living on the edge of food security, constantly stressed that they are one big emergency away from getting into debt to feed their families. That means that it's highly likely that each one of you has constituents that are faced with this issue. And that is only the first reason that I urge you to advocate for 21S468, the agriculture bill, to be voted out of committee and to organize widespread support across your chamber to see that they get voted into law. I want to remind you all of a time in human history where our survival was directly connected to our ability to feed ourselves. That culture has spanned the vast majority of our existence and has been neglected in the past few hundred years since humans began to live extractive lifestyles that used, abused, and disregarded the human and non-human life all around them. When we make choices about food systems today, we must not forget how we got here, with mass food insecurity, water insecurity, extreme weather, homelessness, rampant disease, and so many more intersecting crises. We got here by disregarding that our security is found not in our individualism, but in our interdependence with each other and with the earth. All of our food systems were established by extracting the wisdom from enslaved Africans and indigenous peoples of this land, forcing their labor and disconnecting them from the very source of life they were tending. This was followed by manipulating agricultural practices to maximize profit, killing all the living elements of the earth, the micronutrients that are what we need to survive. We need to put regenerative farming practices back in the hands of the people and give Black, Brown, and Indigenous peoples of color access to local, healthy, sustainable food options. Today in Rhode Island, since the pandemic, 36% of Black households and 40% of Latinx households are food insecure, compared to 20% of white households. This study didn't even analyze impacts to Rhode Islanders of Indigenous descent of the Narragansett tribe on whose stolen lands each one of us currently stands. To truly solve the food crisis and create resilience in communities, our state must support new systems that centers people and resource regenerative farming practices that are essential for ensuring the survival of human species even in our lifetime. Climate change legislation needs to address the immediate impacts that we face in our state and combine a social justice approach in order to be sustainable. This bill and the others in the Rescue Rhode Island Act will do just that, and you can see from the overwhelming support from Rhode Islanders across the state that this is the kind of legislation that we want to see move forward. I hope you can see that the passion and commitment for seeing these bills pass by all means necessary is nothing personal against you, but loving dedication to Rhode Islanders who suffer from government inaction. I believe that every person is competent and capable of meeting reality as it greets them plainly. I trust that this committee has learned from the spotlight that has been on in this country for over a year now, revealing to white Americans the extreme racial injustice and violence that is destroying America and the air, food, and water crises that disproportionately
Thank you, Nicole. That was 3 minutes. Can you wrap up?
Yep, one more. I trust that each of you are capable of having courage to answer the call to fight for the passage of this bill, and I'm asking for your partnership in the fight for racial justice. How you answer this call will reverberate in the lives of generations to come. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I believe we should have Janine on with us now. Janine, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself to the committee, let us know if you're with an organization and what bill you're testifying on, and you can go ahead with your testimony.
Okay.
You can go ahead. We can hear you.
Okay. My name is Janine. Hello, my name is Janine Jaguar-Gagnon, and I'm a resident of Woonsocket, and I'm speaking on behalf of myself in support of Bill 468. Years ago, I lived next door to an empty lot. It was unused, and so the owner allowed me to plant on the land. I planted lots of corn, tomatoes, peppers, cucumbers, pumpkins, sunflowers, and many other vegetables and flowers. I would look outside my kitchen window and watch the corn and all the flowers and vegetables grow. The garden harvest and also working the soil helped me when times were difficult as a single mother. It gave me comfort and sustenance. Supporting local agriculture without chemicals and pesticides is a very smart thing for Rhode Islanders to do. With the climate crisis getting worse every year, we need to take action on many fronts. This legislation can help with food insecurity, which is the current way our government has given this term, which we all know as hunger, and not having enough money to buy adequate food on a daily basis. This bill can help alleviate the problem of people going to bed hungry. People going to bed hungry is a big problem in Rhode Island, and this bill begins to address this problem. Farms are also a big part of our history in Rhode Island. They were very plentiful in years past. Not having enough help and support on farms have been a problem since farm work is very difficult, and the weather can also make things even more of a problem. Profit has also been a good reason to sell off farmlands to developers. This bill will help farmers. I hope that all people, rich and poor, get the experience of growing healthy foods. It helps us to connect to the land. It gives us hope to see things grow. What we eat is a big part of who we are and connected to our overall health. Michelle Obama, as First Lady, as one of her priorities was to have young people have the experience of growing a vegetable garden at the White House. Vegetables that you grow and pick in a nearby garden taste very different from the vegetables coming from thousands of miles away. Creating jobs is always a good policy, and it's important that we always create jobs that pay well. Farming is a very hard job, and the pay should reflect that. I hope that you all may support this bill and help to get it to a vote. We will notice what you do in this regard. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your testimony. We appreciate it. And just under the buzzer. We're just waiting to get the next caller on the line. I believe we should be joined by Emily. Emily, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself to the committee and let us know what bill you're testifying on, if you're testifying with any group, and you can go ahead with your testimony.
Thank you so much. My name is Emily Boucher. I am supporting the Rescue Rhode Island bills tonight, specifically here for Senate Bill 468 in support of, and I'm testifying on behalf of myself. As I start, I just want to thank Bridget Valverde, who co-sponsors the Green Justice Zones and represents me as I live down in Narragansett, Rhode Island. This will be brief. Agriculture is at the heart of human existence and community, and for centuries, our American colonial, industrialized, and capitalist approaches have stripped away the humanity of food production. This bill, I feel, could begin to course correct our currently problematic modern relationships that we Rhode Islanders, as well as most of the rest of the country, have with our earth. Creating jobs that pay people in fair terms, practicing agricultural techniques that have long-term and sustainable goals, and ensuring that nutritious foods are available to people justly and not just reserved for those who can afford it. These are all things that I care deeply about as a voter, a taxpayer, a community member, and a human being. These bills, I know this is just one of them, but the whole lot of them, they will help take action against the social, environmental harm and injustice that I could not be more in favor of this work getting done. I know these bills are weighty and that they are going to take a lot of money and energy and time to prioritize and get done, but I say to every one of the legislators that if it feels hard to do something this drastic, I radically and passionately shout that we just don't have time to be subtle. In the seconds that I have remaining, to respect time, I just want to make a more generalized but a very sincere request as we're talking about the earth, specifically for legislators as you write, consider, and debate, and ultimately approve bills in this session and beyond. I ask that bill writers like yourselves take concrete and meaningful actions to center the lives, well-being, dignity, history, culture, present, past, and future of Rhode Island's Native people, as they are truly the people that deserve the rights to this land and have the respect and wisdom to tend to it in the ways that allow it to be sustainable and honored. So thank you for this time to testify.
Thank you for your testimony. We appreciate it. And we do also learn a lot from the people who testify, and personal stories are very important as we learn more about the issues that face that we're reviewing through these bills. So we appreciate your time and appreciate you sharing that perspective.
Thank you very much. Have a great rest of the night. Thank you for the work.
I believe we should have Kendall on with us. Kendall, if you want to let us know, introduce yourself to the committee, let us know if you're organizing with a group, or excuse me, testifying on behalf of a group, and also what bill number you're testifying on, and you can go ahead with your testimony.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and members of the committee for your time. My name is Kendall Leishing, and I'm strongly in support of Senate Bill 468 and the entire Rescue Rhode Island Act. I'm testifying on behalf of myself. This is my first time testifying, and I'm a 16-year-old high school student. Normally at this time, high school students would be spending time with their friends, doing homework, participating in some after-school activity, or really doing anything besides giving a testimony in support of the bill. However, I feel so strongly about this bill and the entire Rescue Rhode Island Act that I need to speak out in support of it. Every day after I leave school in Providence, I see many homeless people on the streets. Sadly, what I see is only a microscopic fraction of homeless and food insecure people in Rhode Island. As a small effort to help, I've started giving out blessing bags. While I'm only able to offer a small solution to provide temporary relief to a fraction of the homeless and people that go hungry in Rhode Island, you have the opportunity to provide a lasting solution to benefit all Rhode Islanders through passing Senate Bill 468. I believe it is a step in the right direction towards providing local food to food insecure Rhode Islanders while also positively benefiting the environment. For example, this bill aims to create urban community gardens that will pay fair wages and provide food for low and middle income families. Furthermore, these local farms will drastically decrease the carbon footprint of Rhode Islanders' food and decrease the amount of pollutants, pesticides, and harmful chemicals that are used in our soil and food, which also leads to higher rates of cancer and other diseases in communities that are primarily poor and people of color. Thank you for your time and consideration. I hope that you will pass the Senate Bill 468 and the Rescue Rhode Island Act. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony, and we would have never guessed that it was your first time testifying, so really great job, and thank you for sharing your story and your perspective with the committee. It's greatly appreciated.
Thank you.
I believe we should be joined by Tim. And Tim, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself to the committee, let us know what bill you're testifying on and if you're representing any organization, and you can go ahead with your testimony.
Sure, thank you. Just representing myself, no organization. My name is Tim Lainert from Cranston, and I'm testifying on behalf of SB 468. And I just wanted to, I'll make it quick. I think we can grow food close to home. That is ideal. It's good for the environment, reduces transportation-related emissions, provides jobs locally, and it is, one very positive thing we can do in terms of reaching the climate goals. Secondly, the cost of farmland in Rhode Island is extremely expensive, so it's very difficult for people without some kind of program to be able to just establish farms locally and grow food. So I'm in favor of anything where we can help people, whether it's individual farmers, cooperatives, community gardens, grow more food locally, which I think will be benefit for the people growing and the people who are eating. And that's all I have to say. So thanks for your time.
Thank you, and we really appreciate your testimony.
All right, thank you. Good night.
Just so the committee knows, we're just waiting for the next caller. I believe we should have Judy with us. Judy, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Judy, you're on with the Environment and Agriculture Committee. If you want to go ahead and introduce yourself, let us know what bill you're testifying, and if there's any organization that you're representing, you can go ahead with your testimony.
Okay, thank you. Hi, my name is Judy, and I am representing myself, and I'm supporting the bill S468. I just want to say that this bill is a great idea on so many levels. I grew up in white suburbia, and I've never really known hunger other than missing a few meals here and there. Shouldn't that be the norm for all people and not just for the middle class or wealthy? Shouldn't all people have access to good, healthy food? I say yes, and here's why. Number one, people will have access to much healthier food with the bill than what they can afford now. Let's face it, McDonald's, Burger King, and the like are not exactly healthy, but it is what a lot of the poor people eat. Healthier food brings about healthier people. This one is a no-brainer. Eating your freshly grown fruits and vegetables is a lot healthier and tastier than ones that have been shipped in a truck for days on end, and then you're charged for more than what they are worth. I mean, let's face it, we've all gone to the grocery store, and we've gotten our fruits and vegetables, we've gone home, we put them away, and then sometimes we've gone to go use them, and they've gone bad, or what have you, and people can't afford to do that. They can't afford to just throw these things out. Creating a garden and growing your food will help people to feel good about themselves, for being able to provide good food for their families. In fact, the whole family could work on it together. This might actually cause an uptick in self-esteem, which just might begin to lead to mental health problems going down. Please, Senators, support this bill. People need to eat healthy food, but they also need the feeling of doing something meaningful for themselves, their families, and their neighbors. If ever there is a bill that we would not think twice about raising taxes on the real wealthy, this is it. And thank you for letting me testify.
Thank you so much for your testimony, Judy. I appreciate it.
Thank you.